I'm so excited to talk to you today because one, this series is exceptional, and two, as a person in their 30s, I feel like I never get the chance to talk to another adult about dinosaurs, and that's just really sad. And I feel like we should all be asking each other what our favorite dinosaurs are more often. So, that said, what's your favorite dinosaur before this series, and do you have a new favorite after doing the series?
We have an argument about, not an argument, we have a battle when we ask this about who's going to say T-Rex, but I'm going to let Tim say T-Rex because I'm now actually, my new favorite is actually not strictly a dinosaur, it's a pterosaur. It's the start of the end of episode 1, which is a massive pterosaur called Hatzegopteryx. And it's probably one of the most extraordinary creatures ever lived, and certainly one of the most awesome predators. And I reckon, as children, you were mentioning about children, if children said who would win, I think I might put my money on Hatzegopteryx, actually. I think it's got a pretty fearsome weapon, and it has the power of flight. But what I love about it, it's an animal that people don't know very, I suspect it'll be quite fresh to people. I don't think people know about something of that size and something of those extraordinary powers lived on planet Earth, that it could fly like a jumbo jet, but it could also hunt like a super predator on land. Incredible. Yet in the series, we show this lovely, rather tender moment where this beautiful courtship display, which almost certainly, there's a lot of very good, interesting evidence about that. So yeah, that's my favorite.
I'll go with T-Rex then, seeing as how Mike's left it for me. But I don't think you can go any further than T-Rex, but especially the way we depict it, because we've seen this animal so many times before, but we show it anatomically quite different to how people got used to it. We show it behaviorally very different. In series 1, we saw it swimming, we saw it looking after its kids, we saw it doing a tender courtship ritual, and in series 2, we see unusual behaviors again. And I think just that marriage of the very familiar. If you asked somebody to name a dinosaur, 99% of people would say T-Rex. So we got the very familiar, but with the unexpected, in so much that it was a wonderful animal. It would have been very flamboyant, like all of these animals. It would have been such a rich world that these animals fitted into. And so we see it doing cool bits of behavior. And what's yours, Preston?
Well, now I feel called out because before this series, it was, of course, the T-Rex. First movie I ever saw in theaters as a kid was Jurassic Park, and so I fell in love there. And we're back. And then, now the Quetzalcoatlus, I just felt like that whole sequence of like trying to find a mate and like I don't want to spoil all of what happens in that, but it's just like that whole process was so beautiful, and I really hope that's how it went down.
Have you seen all the episodes yet?
I have, yes.
So have you seen the North America episode where, of course, it satisfies us both, because you have Quetzalcoatlus, it's not Hatzegopteryx, but Quetzalcoatlus versus T-Rex, and so in a way that kind of Trump's dream happens. And I'm pleased to say that I think Quetzalcoatlus kind of comes out on top. Not giving anything away, of course.
Yeah, you definitely had me pretty nervous there. I'll say that.
By the way, I think it's one of our best sequences. I think it's phenomenal. I just think it's got such extraordinary power.
Yeah. Speaking of that actual sequence, without giving away anything of what happens in it, there's an animal that falls to the ground in that moment, and it's like one of those sequences. I watched every episode with my son, and he's almost 6 years old, and what's great about this series is that if you're watching it with your child, you can really have a thoughtful conversation with kids. Like, before, my son would probably watch this and maybe get a little emotional about seeing one of the species killing another, but like if we were watching like a nature show. But I think the fact that he knows dinosaurs died long ago, he's able to provide a little distance and allow himself to understand, well, if that species didn't eat that one, they wouldn't survive. And so I'm curious, have you had any surprising or thoughtful conversations with kids as a result of doing this show?
I think it's that what you say is fascinating. And I think it is a thought-provoking series for a whole load of reasons, because that as you say, that part of our ambition is that people don't think of them as being extinct, that they feel like they have gone back, or rather, of course they exist, but that they're witnessing them as contemporary live animals. And the approach we've taken photographically and storytelling wise, the intention is that it feels like we've been able to go through a portal and actually step onto planet Earth 66 million years and experience these things. So, but nevertheless, it's still thought-provoking that this world did exist so far back in time, yet it still has connections and has parallels and has similar challenges that the ones we live today. So I think it does make you step back a little bit and think about the scale of time and our own existence on the planet being so brief and transient. So yeah, I think that sense of thought-provokingness is important. And the only other thing I was going to say is, I think although we haven't made this for kids. I mean, it is made for a four-quadrant audience, as you say in the States. But I think it does open an inner kid in all of us, because there's something about that journey that your son has made that we all do take to some degree.
Yeah. I don't want you to think that your goals with this show are failing you. That's not what I was saying with what I was saying.
No.
That was my own interjections as he's watching it, because he's getting sucked into it. He's getting emotional, and I'm saying, hey, it's okay, dinosaurs died a long ago. And so that it just allowed him to be able to have that thought and understanding.
I think it's a really valid point, because I make a lot of we both make a lot of contemporary wildlife films, and that triaging or calibrating rather, how different members of the age grade and an emotional range of people will respond to things. These are very powerful stories. It's life and death, and you're witnessing it in a very visceral way. So you're right. Yeah.
Tim, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that what I've been really, really interested in is through talking to my kids. I've got two kids, and talking to their friends as well, is how different we all are, and how we all like different aspects of the series. And so I've not yet had a situation where I've had agreement from any of their group of friends about which is the best dinosaur, or which is the best sequence, or which they like most. Everybody's different, and it's a great reminder that we are all totally individual, and so we all connect with different aspects of the series.
Obviously, we have the different habitats and environments each episode, and that would greatly inform which dinosaurs are explored here. But there were a lot of dinosaurs in those areas, so the selection process is still there, because you have to think about the narrative flow between species and the transitional moments, which probably was a lot of hard work, and it shows. But how much did the actual current wildlife photography that was used to inform everything, even shot placement, because that was crazy to think about it if you're an adult watching it who watches a lot of nature shows, and you're they're using a lot of the same lenses that would be used to capture these animals' behaviors, and so I'm just fascinated with that whole process.
There's a lot of answers to that. I'll answer that last bit, and then Tim can pick up on the first bit, perhaps.
Sure.
So yes, I mean the whole ethos of this, right from its first conception, was to reflect or mimic what it would be like if you were actually doing this for real, if you had got into a time machine and were able to go back and film it. So all those techniques add to that authenticity. So there's a massive authenticity in terms of the realization, the scientific veracity of the creatures and the behavior, but also it's the execution, it's the experience of the film. And that all has to be done by making very, very strict rules about what you can and can't do in the VFX world, because theoretically you can do anything in a VFX world. You can have a million cameras and put them anywhere, but in the real world you can't. So it's a very tightly constrained rules of combat, so to speak. If it's a big predator and it's hunting, you don't get close to it because it'll eat you. So you shoot that on an offense. All those things that you've picked up, but they're important because even though people may not have the same acuity that you have about that, nevertheless, everybody will get, you can sense it. This feels authentic, feels right. And I don't know why, but it does. And that was because we did all that.
Everything starts with the fossil record. So we only use animals that are recorded in the fossil record from this time period. In terms of how we select within that fossil record, we need a cast of characters that can tell different stories. Like with any nature documentary, you need somebody, you need a character that can then give you jeopardy. You need a character that can give you excitement. You have funny sequences and you have slightly sad sequences, and the different characters lend themselves to different situations, but all based on a lot of study of the fossils and then how we think those animals would behave in their environments.
Yeah.
So it's all rooted in science.
Yeah. Well, it's really well done.
It's a shame we only have 10 minutes, but
yeah, we'll sit here all day. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Preston.
Great dinosaur behind you, Preston.
I know it's eating Jeff Goldblum. Sorry.
Cheers.